Lizzo arrives feeling like she's the general of a waiting army, women who don't look like the mainstream ideal.
So if music videos are to be believed, then you need to be able to sing, dance, and look incredibly thin from any angle in order to be a pop star. When did that happen? I mean, isn't the phrase, "it ain't over till the fat lady sings"? In fact, people just look at me and assume that in this body, I must be able to take them to church on a rendition of like Happy Birthday or something. When the truth is, I am quite avant-garde in my musical ability to be big and black and off key. Fat women have always been at the forefront of all of the music that is the most important to us. So I am here to make sure that some of these queens get the respect that they are due. Damn it, we forgot Aretha. The R.E.S.P.E.C.T that they are due. Oh, come on, guys. Let's get things lit with Dr. Joan Morgan. Dr. Joan Morgan, thank you so much for taking the time to speak with me today. I'm curious about music and fatness crossing each other. What role do you feel that fatphobia plays in the music industry?
America is delusional about body. It is just absolutely delusional about body. Like go into your favorite Soho store. There's stores that do not go above a size 8.
And who's fitting into that and eating food in America?
The average size of the American woman before COVID was a size 14.
Yeah.
And now it's gone up to 16. The pressure then doesn't necessarily even have to come from the labels anymore on this artist about what their body needs to look like. It can be, what are the Twitter comments saying about me? What are the Instagram comments saying about me? My life might just be easier if I lost weight and I just look like your average pop star, whatever that means.
Even though like music in particular has benefited so greatly from big women. Do you know what I mean? It's not always the case, but usually big women are the better singers. Like they've got the capacity for that breath and that power. When I think about American music, you know, you're talking about jazz, you're talking about rhythm and blues, you have to talk about someone like Ma Rainey, who is someone that until recently, a lot of history has forgotten. Like Ma Rainey didn't give a damn about whatever anybody thought about her. I mean, she was big, she was black, she was queer, open about it, performed some dirty songs.
I mean, people get stressed out about like women rappers and like their lyrics. I would be like, have you listened to blues women? Like, have you really listened to blues women? It's almost this like renegade sexiness, you know? It's like, you're telling me I'm not supposed to do that. I'm claiming sex in my body. I'm claiming it lyrically. I'm claiming a desirability. And like so many blues women, right? We're dealing with having to claim power in a situation where race defines you. What Black audiences love is her rawness, right?
Yeah.
What white audiences are afraid of is her rawness. So, you know, there is this real pressure to whitewash. One of her largest stances, though, and significant ones, is the way that she stands up to an industry. Just absolutely refuses to be whatever their perception of her, and not just a perception, but perform music in the ways that they think are going to be marketable and desirable.
It's kind of like, why change for people who are never going to accept you anyway? Why not be what you are and make them want it? Mama Cass apparently hated being called mama. As far as having any kind of fat icon, she was a fat musician who was well known, but like the first thing you learn about her is like, yeah, she choked to death on a ham sandwich, which isn't true. I guess I just find myself really disappointed that the only stories we have about someone who was an early fat musical icon is about, oh, someone who died young because basically, well, you're fat and you died choking on food because you're a fatty. Janet Jackson, who's been around since the dawn of music as far as I'm concerned. I mean, Rhythm Nation was probably the second album that I owned. Like someone like Rihanna, why are we fat shaming Rihanna? Like all of these women have faced sort of fat shaming, fat phobia.
I often ask myself, what I would not give to get the time back that I'm actually thinking about bodies and weight in ways that I'm not even aware of. And I think that is pretty much every woman. I've heard the term fat used by women who are a size 4. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
I'm getting fat. Externally, you want to be like, you're being ridiculous. But the truth is that soundtrack keeps playing in her head in a way that none of us are taught to just show up and be like completely comfortable in our bodies.
I think it's fair to say that hip hop has brought curves into the mainstream a bit more. Everybody's got a butt. Everybody. I mean, I'm a big Black woman with no ass, so I'm just constantly bitter about my lot in life. I think some would argue that, that it's helped people embrace fat bodies, but the lyric is an itty bitty waist with a round thing in your face. So for those of us without the itty bitty waist, or honestly the round thing, there's not necessarily a place for fat women in hip hop.
It is important that these fleshier bodies, more curvy bodies, challenge a sort of white mainstream notion of beauty. But then again, the erasure, right? Because it's not even looked as like a Black woman's body. It's like the desirability for like Kim Kardashian's body.
Yeah.
Were desired and then taken out of the equation. And the person that body has become extremely profitable for is Kim, right?
Yes.
Because
it's her butt that broke the internet, not anybody else who had a butt before her.
Exactly. Yeah. So, there's a way that Black women still get the short end of the stick, even in this process of making room for more.
Can we talk about thick? Where does thick come from? Who is thick? Who gets to be thick? How far do you get to go up before you're no longer thick? Do you keep having to add C's like X's on a t-shirt?
So much of this is subjective. Where is your thickness? Having thick thighs may qualify you as like what we think of the desirable thick. Having thickness around your stomach may not. It's so important to realize that these narratives and dialogues around Black women's body size are deeply linked to like male perceptions of desirability.
Yeah.
It's very hard for us to control where these markers lie. Like what's thick, what's not thick. I think a lot of it is a desirability issue, and we're just not the ones forming that narrative.
Yeah. Can you speak to, especially some of our younger audience, about the import of Queen Latifah, that she isn't necessarily only an actress?
She was such an incredible MC. It was really shocking, like to a lot of people, that a woman could possess that kind of flow and a kind of baseness to her voice. Like when she came out, her position was queen. So there were the crowns and the regality, and she was kind of buttoned up. It seemed to be shocking to people later that she was actually pretty. You know what I mean? Like, like a really pretty woman, like a cover, worthy of like a cover girl.
Yeah.
Her face did not change at all.
No,
always the same woman. But I think that what we ascribe to as pretty, like an artist, a female artist that's being taken seriously, the compliment is that she can go toe to toe with any dude as an MC.
Yeah.
Doesn't make space for, but that's also a woman that could be beautiful and desirable.
Moving on to Missy, my perception of her was that she did not give a damn, because she knew how good she was and she was coming for it.
So I think one of the things that's important and that often gets erased about how Missy shows up is she's an extremely successful songwriter, which means that allows her to enter in that space in a way that's very different with someone with no track record who's quote unquote just trying to get on. Right? And at this time there's a real pressure to show up kind of R&B cute.
Yeah.
She knows that's never her body. And so she goes completely in the opposite direction. She basically does one of the most innovative videos we've ever seen at that time.
Yep.
In a
trash bag. She
know?
Came out in a trash bag and we were like, that's the shit.
Right. Missy had to be as dope an MC as she is.
Yeah.
For her to get the kind of respect that she did.
Yeah. Now, someone like Lizzo, obviously extremely talented and gifted, but also seems, in my opinion, to have been so readily embraced in a way that I haven't necessarily felt like I've seen before. That's the first time I've seen anything remotely like, I'm like, oh, that's my body. You know, I mean, maybe not the butt, but you know, like people have really just been like, Lizzo! What do you think accounts for that?
I think there are a couple of things. One, that have to be attributed to Lizzo herself. The way that she appreciates her body and the way that she's unapologetic about her body. But she arrives at a very particular moment, right?
Yeah.
With the kind of work that's being done by body activists. She arrives where there's a term called fatphobic. Like,
yes,
people have to remember that is not a term that existed in our lexicon in popular ways even 15 years ago, maybe even 10 years ago.
Yep.
Lizzo arrives feeling like she's the general of a waiting army of women who don't look like the mainstream ideal, and we're sort of looking for their general, you know?
Yeah,
and
that's such a beautiful way to put it. Like, the movement rose to meet their leader. Do you see this, I don't know, sort of foreshadowing better things for women and women's bodies in the music industry?
I think you will, because it's being supported by other things. Fashion is finally caught up to music in some senses, right?
Yeah.
It's learned that it has to put in different kinds of bodies.
Yeah.
Our mannequins are starting to look different. You know, the mannequins are actually looking like the average size of the woman who wears clothing, right?
Really?
Like, whoa, okay.
Yeah.
I call this the normalization of the idea that bodies show up in various sizes and forms. And so then our notion of beauty can be more fluid than it's ever been. But I don't think music could have done it by itself. I think it's being supported by a fashion moment. I think it's being supported by the fact that like Instagram and Twitter are such powerful platforms that allow people to create constructions of themselves that they want to see and put out there. Before that, we just had to sort of, you know, you had to wait for someone to see you to feel validated. Yeah. Now you can validate yourself.
Well, it really sounds like the movement is starting from the grassroots and moving up. Thank you so much, Dr. Joan Morgan, for telling me about the history I experienced, but like actually knowing what the hell went on. I appreciate that.
Thank you for having me. It's really been a pleasure.
If you want to watch more of these videos, subscribe to my channel.